Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
In the headlines this Tuesday, March 9th, the bishops of Hungary expressed their surprise and gratitude for Pope Francis's intention to visit the nation in September. Catholics and Muslims across the world continue to praise the Pope's trip to Iraq, and Syrian children in the diaspora say they see no future for themselves in their homeland as the nation marks 10 years of civil war. In the Vatican, I'm Devin Watkins. The Catholic bishops of Hungary have welcomed the news of a likely papal visit to their capital. They were reacting to Pope Francis telling reporters on Monday that he has plans to visit Budapest in September for the International Eucharistic Congress. Robin Gomes has the story.
We are pleased to learn that the Holy Father has announced his decision to come to Budapest for the closing Mass of the 52nd International Eucharistic Congress, the Hungarian Catholic Bishops' Conference, HCBC, said in a brief statement on Monday. We hope that his visit will be a great encouragement and spiritual reinforcement for all of us and for the future participants of the Eucharistic Congress, said the statement by the Primate of Hungary, Cardinal Péter Erdő, Archbishop of Esztergom, Budapest, and Bishop András Veres of Győr, HCBC President. The International Eucharistic Congress is scheduled from 5th to 12th September in the Hungarian capital, Budapest. The bishop's statement was in response to the announcement of the visit by Pope Francis during a press conference on board the return flight from his apostolic journey to Iraq on Monday. The Pope was responding to a question about the possibility of returning to his native Argentina now that he will soon complete 8 years of his pontificate and has not been to his homeland since his election in 2013. I don't know if the trip will come true or not, he said, admitting that his Iraq trip was much more tiring than the others. We'll see, the 84-year-old pontiff said, now that I'll have to go to Hungary for the final Mass of the International Eucharistic Congress. However, he clarified it is not a visit to the country, but only for the Mass. Pope Francis also indicated the possibility of a visit to Slovakia. Budapest is a 2-hour drive from Bratislava. Why not make a visit to Slovakia, the Pope said. The Slovak bishops have not commented on the possible papal visit as yet. I am Robin Gomes.
As the Pope rests up after his apostolic journey to Iraq, praise and gratitude continue to roll in for the historic trip. The Higher Committee of Human Fraternity has hailed it as a crucial moment for promoting tolerance, inclusiveness, and human fraternity. Father Benedict Mayaki reports.
The Higher Committee for Human Fraternity, in a statement, has welcomed Pope Francis's historic apostolic journey to Iraq as an important moment for the world and a true promotion of the values advocated by the document on human fraternity. The Higher Committee noted that during his 4-day trip to the Middle Eastern nation, Pope Francis visited a number of Iraqi cities, including Baghdad, Najaf, Erbil, and Mosul. The Pope also attended a meeting for interfaith dialogue in and in a speech there emphasized the importance of promoting human fraternity. Cardinal Miguel Ayuso, President of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, said that Pope Francis aims to promote cultural dialogue and a culture of convergence and inclusiveness so that everyone in our society can enjoy peace in his life regardless of race, culture, or religion. President of the Al-Azhar University and member of the Higher Committee, Professor Mohammed Al-Marasawi, said that Pope Francis's visit provided healing for the wounds of the Iraqi people after years of wars and destruction. He added that it will act as a call for tolerance and convergence on the values of citizenship and coexistence between all Iraqis and all peoples of the region. The professor also said that tolerance is the best response to the calls for hatred and extremism that took the lives of many and displaced millions of innocent people. Praising the results of the papal visit to Iraq, Mohammed Khalifa Al-Mubarak, chairman of Abu Dhabi's Department of Culture and Tourism, emphasized that the Pope's keenness to complete the visit reflects his belief in the need to apply the principles of human fraternity. For his part, the Secretary General of the Higher Committee, Judge Mohammed Abdesalam, stressed that the Pope's presence in Iraq brought to light the religious and cultural diversity in Iraq and the region. It also showed how this diversity could be a way for achieving peace and cohesion among communities. Judge Abdesalam further highlighted that the visit carried a powerful message that the whole world should support victims of war and extremism and not abandon them under any circumstances. I'm Father Benedict Mayaki.
In other news, in Myanmar, dozens of protesters have escaped from an area in which they had been cornered overnight by security forces. Burmese demonstrators have been demanding a return to democracy since a February 1st military coup, which saw a junta seize power over the entire nation. Francesca Merlo tells us more.
Dozens of anti-coup protesters have managed to escape after being cornered off by security forces in Yangon. Around 200 people were trapped overnight in the Sanchang district, but as security forces began to gradually diminish, some of the protesters managed to escape, whilst around 40 were arrested. Many of the protesters were allegedly taken in by local residents, whilst others remained trapped. At least 54 people have died since protests broke out in early February in response to a military coup, which saw the Tatmadaw, Myanmar's military, take power of the Southeast Asian nation on the 1st of February. Protesters are calling for a return to democracy, as well as for the release of the country's elected government leaders such as Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi, then the state councillor, de facto leader and a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, was arrested and faces several charges, including causing fear and alarm and possessing illegally imported communications equipment. During his Angelus on the 7th of February, Pope Francis expressed his solidarity with the people of Myanmar and appealed to its leaders to show willingness to serve the common good. The Pope said he had been following with much concern the developments in the country, a nation that I carry in my heart with much affection ever since my apostolic visit there in 2017, he said. According to the United Nations chief Antonio Guterres, many of those trapped on Monday had been women who were marching in support of International Women's Day. The UN had appealed to the military for their safe release, with Mr. Guterres urging maximum restraint. I'm Francesca Merlo.
Nearly a decade has passed since the outbreak of Syria's civil war, and many who have fled the destruction and chaos see no future for themselves in their homeland. A new report published Tuesday by the charity Save the Children highlights that Syrian children in other nations do not want to return to Syria. Lydia O'Kane has the details.
It's been 10 years since nationwide protests descended into an all-out conflict in Syria, killing hundreds of thousands of people and displacing millions of children and their families. But what is the future for those children who have been uprooted from their homes in the last decade? According to a new report issued on Tuesday by the charity Save the Children, the vast majority of Syria's children cannot imagine a future in their country. The findings show that 86% of Syrian refugee children surveyed in Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey and the Netherlands said they would not want to return to their country of origin. In the report entitled Anywhere But Syria, of the children displaced inside the country, 1 in 3 would rather be living in another country. However, although many of these children don't want to return home, they are now struggling to feel safe in the countries they fled to. The report highlights around 2 in 5 of those surveyed said they face discrimination and a lack of education. In another distressing response, many feel they have no say over their future. Nada, who is 17, was born in Syria with a disability that affects her nervous system. She currently lives in Akkar, North Lebanon. She told Save the Children that her dream is to become a doctor, but she lacks the education. There's no safety. I cannot even go to school. My dream is to go to school and just be like my siblings, she said. The findings reveal that even before the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, 80% of people in Syria had been living below the international poverty line. As Syria passes the grim milestone of conflict and suffering, Save the Children is calling on all stakeholders to protect Syria's children from the physical and psychological violence that has been plaguing their lives for the last 10 years. I'm Lydia O'Kane.
In Brazil, a Supreme Court judge has eradicated the corruption charges which convicted and jailed ex-President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The development means Lula, as he is known, could revitalize his political career, as James Blears reports.
So-called Operation Car Wash scandal swept over ex-Brazilian President Lula, resulting in him being jailed for 12 years and eventually serving 18 months behind bars. Now Supreme Court Judge Edson Fachin has set aside and quashed those convictions, which Lula himself always condemned as a witch hunt. This judge rules that these sort of charges could only have been tried by a federal court and none other. Now the full Supreme Court must consider it, but this latest ruling can only be overturned and reversed if the the original convictions were to be reactivated. So Lula's full political rights, including the capability to contest a presidential election, are restored forthwith. He was jailed in 2018 after being convicted of accepting bribes for the renovation of a beachside residence. He's always denied this. Lula's lawyers say he's now been fully vindicated. He himself says it was all a political vendetta. President of Brazil from 2003 to 2010, Lula revitalized the economy, pulling millions out of the poverty trap. He left office riding on a crest of enormous nationwide popularity. As things now stand, Lula, who's also a former union leader, could contest next year's presidential election. Sitting and current President Jair Bolsonaro is expected to seek re-election. For Vatican Radio, James Blues reporting.
Briefly in news from around the world, in Equatorial Guinea, the death toll from a series of explosions at a military base has shot up to 98. The health ministry said volunteers have pulled many bodies from the rubble left after the blast in the port city of Bata. Over 600 people were wounded and thousands of houses destroyed. Hospitals in the area have been flooded with the injured, of whom around 300 remain hospitalized. Equatorial Guinea's president has blamed the incident on negligent handling of dynamite. In Lebanon, discontent is brewing in the ranks of the security forces over a currency crash. Soldiers complain that most of the value of their salaries has been wiped out as unrest and crime surge. Lebanon's army chief warned that soldiers' morale could lead to an implosion in the ranks. Lebanon's pound has crashed 85% since late 2019 in a financial meltdown that poses the biggest threat to stability since the 1975 to 1990 civil war. And finally, today marks 1 year since Pope Francis celebrated his first live-streamed lockdown Mass from the Casa Santa Marta. The daily celebration of the Eucharist came to be seen for 2 months by millions as an appointment with the Pope to seek consolation and strength in the Lord during the confusion of the initial outbreak of COVID-19. Thaddeus Jones has more.
1 year ago, the coronavirus pandemic suddenly took the world by surprise, causing a cascade of regional and national lockdowns to stop its spread. At first, Italy was hardest hit in Europe, followed by other nations. Life came to a surreal standstill in Rome and all around the Vatican. In order to reach out to people during this time of fear and bewilderment felt by many, Pope Francis offered a way to reach out and bring people the consolation that comes from prayer and faith. On the 9th of March 2020, he started to broadcast and live stream his 7 a.m. daily Mass celebrated at the Casa Santa Marta residence. In this way, the celebration became a public moment available to all. The broadcast became a regular appointment for the faithful around the world, even in China, where people watched the celebrations. Each day, the Pope offered prayers for different groups of people facing difficulties: the sick, expectant mothers, the elderly, children far from school, healthcare workers, those who are fearful or sad. Also for artists endowed with very great capacity for creativity, who, he says, through beauty show to us the path to follow in trying to live out this period positively. Attending Mass in person is essential, the Pope noted during one of his April homilies, but in safety. This is the Church in a difficult situation which the Lord permits, but the ideal of the Church is always with the people and with the sacraments. Always, the Pope said. The broadcast came to a conclusion in mid-May, when the pandemic situation in Italy especially had improved. I'm Thaddeus Jones.
That brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and other stories, go to our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. There you can also find all our broadcasts in podcast form. And don't forget to catch the latest updates on our Facebook page and Twitter feed. In the Vatican, I'm Devin Watkins.